All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for getting on this call. We appreciate you joining us. As always, we're recording this and we will send it out to all that have registered and we'll have it up on our website. Please make sure to use the chat feature if you have any questions from Melissa or John, and they'll make sure to answer them at the end. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to John.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning to all of you and welcome. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the PRLA Industry Update with Melissa Bova. I'd like to remind you that today's session is for the use and benefit of restaurants, hotels, travel and tourism partners, and other friends of PRLA, and is off the record. It's not designed as a press event. And should anyone from the press be on this webinar right now, feel free to reach out to us at some other time for an interview, but please disconnect. So with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa. Melissa, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. At like 3 o'clock yesterday, I was like, I don't have a lot to talk about. And then everything changed. So lots of updates today, especially on the federal level. So let's jump right into things. Don't get mad at me for being the bearer of bad news. As I always do, I'm going to tell you what I know and what I think. So we're going to start with RRF replenishment. As you all probably saw in our updates, which I know you read every day promptly at 5:15 or 5:30, PRLA has been doing a big push as it pertains to RRF replenishment, Restaurant Revitalization Fund, getting that $48 billion that needs to be found to make sure that everybody who applied for RRF receives it. We did a press release last week. We did that included a few of our members, one from out in Allegheny County, one from Philadelphia area. We had a number of op-eds that have been placed all around the state, and the media outlets are beginning to pick up the story. So we are driving attention to this issue. If you've worked in a legislative office, which I have, I can tell you that our congressional delegation, they notice and keep every time we get a media push on an item that they would vote on. So we're definitely making traction in terms of getting the media to pick up the importance of refunding the RRF. To that end, and I think either Ben or Steph or someone as I speak through it will put these links in the box, we do need to keep up the pressure on our entire congressional delegation in terms of refunding RRF. Basically saying we don't care where you do it, how you do it, but you have to do it. We need the $48 billion. We continue to run into the problem of, despite the Delta variant, changing consumer behavior, impacting how you operate, Congress generally is trying not to deal with anything COVID related. So please, if you have not done the action alert, if you have not called your congressperson, you have not called Senator Casey and Senator Toomey's office, you need to do that in terms of driving the issue that they need to replenish RRF. To that end, I want to talk about a few items that have come up really within the last 24 hours that I want to address. And like I said, don't shoot the messenger here. But there is a markup happening right now within the Small Business Committee within the U.S. House of Representatives. PRLA has 3 members of our congressional delegation that serve on that committee. Congressman Dwight Evans, Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan, and Congressman Dan Muser, all 3 sit on that Small Business Committee. They are doing what is referred to as a markup of what they want to be included in the infrastructure bill. So there is a big push for them to include RRF replenishment as part of that markup. Here's the item you don't always know about. So each committee gets an amount that they're allowed to allocate as part of the markup. The Small Business Committee is only being given $17 billion to allocate. So even if they allocated all of it to RRF, it doesn't get us where we need to be in terms of full replenishment. Should they be advocating for it? Absolutely, but it doesn't check the box in terms of the full funding that we need. Here's the other issue that we run into as it pertains to RRF replenishment. I would love a great congressional process where everybody sits around the table and hammers out the issues and comes up with a compromise, a middle ground. Unfortunately, that ended years ago, at least within the US Congress. So a lot of what's being in the infrastructure bill is being driven by House and Senate leadership. So Congresswoman Pelosi Senator Schumer, and of course, the Biden administration. All three of those offices continue to not want to contain COVID-related provisions in the infrastructure bill. And RRF is a COVID provision. So that's kind of what we're up against in terms of we're pushing this, we're going to continue to push it. But leadership at this point in time is saying we don't want anything included. So one, we don't have enough money in that committee. Two, leadership isn't really all that excited about including anything COVID related. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try. It doesn't mean we shouldn't keep the pressure up, which is what we're asking you to do, which is what we're going to continue to do. But I wanted to be honest and upfront that if we focus on just those three congressional members, that's not going to get us where we need to be. So the pressure needs to be put on our entire congressional delegation and Senator Toomey and Senator Casey. The other item that I want to bring to everybody's attention is that this infrastructure bill, as it's being developed, it could be upwards of $2 to $3 trillion. That sounds like nothing now after we've had a few multi-trillion-dollar COVID recovery bills, but Congress is trying to find a way to pay for it. And while we are still waiting to see the details of how this bill is fleshed out, there are provisions in there that would increase taxes for the business community to pay for it. Items, and then we're getting more of this fleshed out as we go through it. Decreasing tax deduction for sole proprietors is on the table to fund this. Repeal of the stepped up basis. If you're a family owned business, basically increasing and requiring you to pay taxes, not when you sell the company, when you inherit the company as part of the family. A broad corporate tax rate increase for top earners in the United States. General plastics excise taxes on the table, stock buyback repurchasing tax, compensation taxes. Even beyond that, there's discussion of putting in paid family leave provisions within the bill. Not to make everybody lose sleep at night, there's discussions of putting portions of the PRO Act, which is a pro-labor, increasing penalties on businesses that don't allow union organization to happen seamlessly, increasing those penalties. So there are a lot of things that could be in this infrastructure bill that at the end of the day, I think all of us are going to have to take a hard look of, if we somehow get 48 billion for RRF in there, which is so important, does it get countered by $1 trillion in tax increases? And I think that's a question that we're going to need to think about and analyze as the details of this bill come out. So currently at this moment, I want you to keep the pressure on RRF and replenishment, but please stay tuned as we start to flesh out the details of this infrastructure bill. We will ask you to engage on some of those provisions as well to make sure that a small win on one end isn't canceled out by a lot of losses on the other end. So please, name of the game right now is all federal all the time. And as we flesh out the details of those bills, please stay tuned and be prepared to engage as we need you to. So that's, like I said, don't shoot the messenger here, but that's kind of where we are in terms of the big mess that is coming out of RRF replenishment being tied to the infrastructure bill. Next, Save Hotel Jobs Act for my hoteliers. This is another item, again, that is being pushed to be part of the infrastructure bill, whether it's in that bill or another broader bill. But for my hoteliers, please stay tuned to that. It includes tax breaks for hiring back employees, tax breaks for getting PPE. It is a hotel specific piece of legislation because all of our hotels, of course, were not entitled to RRF. So if you have not engaged on that front, please go to Hotels Act and engage in terms of including that bill in a future bill as well. EIDL. So this is something that we haven't talked about a lot, but I do want to cover it a little bit today because we expect this announcement to be imminent. Our national partners, National Restaurant Association, American Hotel and Lodging Association, Asian American Hotel Owners Association have been working really hard to find other avenues of funding for the industry. And this is across the entire business industry. And one of those is what we expect to be an imminent change to EIDL loans. This is a loan. This is not a forgiven loan. This is not forgivable, but it does allow you to tap into some additional funds as it pertains to trying to operate and needing funds to operate your business. Some of those changes are a change in the use of funds, allowing prepayment on commercial and credit cards, principal and interest. You can use it to pay principal and interest on other debts that you might owned by the federal government. The cap for EIDL is expected to be increased to $2 million, and the affiliation requirements are going to be tied to PPP. So going way back, thinking about PPP, for some of my multi-units out there, you will be eligible to tap into EIDL for a higher amount than you might have been to before. So we are expecting any day now for the changes in EIDL to become available. So while nobody needs a loan, nobody wants a loan right now, it will be an ability to access capital that you might need at this point in time, especially if you didn't get the RRF right away, or especially with the Delta variant. We're seeing the impact, we're seeing potentially future impacts from other variants to get you some of that cash flow that you need. So I wanted to flag that. Like I said, it is not available yet. We will let you know as soon as that portal opens up for you to be able to access that, but that is going to be another avenue for you to tap into some much needed funds. Other news, this is the question John and I have been getting, I think, all week. The federal unemployment supplement is over, so that $300 a week has ended. The eviction moratorium is ending as well. So we'll see how this works out over the next week or two. But we are starting to hear from some of our members that they are seeing a slight uptick in applications now that the unemployment supplement has ended. Is it going to be enough to cure the labor shortage? No, but we are starting to see that uptick, and we'll be asking all of you over the next few weeks if you're starting to see that within your business, if you're starting to see a few more applications. Before you ask me, the question that you're all going to ask me is, we do not expect and do not anticipate the unemployment supplement being brought back into play in the future. The Biden administration has moved on from it. They're not advocating for it. And the other side of the good news of the infrastructure bill potentially not containing COVID provisions is that it wouldn't contain that either. So we do not expect an inclusion of that $300 or any other hundreds of dollars to be put into a piece of legislation, at least at the federal level, and the states can't do it unless they have the federal support. So we do not expect that to come back, and hopefully that does drive some more applications to at least put a little bit of relief on all of you, especially with the labor shortage right now. Next slide. Okay. Sorry, this Delta variant is mucking up all kinds of things. So we have a new survey that just came out from the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and it's not great, but it's similar to the survey I reviewed with you all last week that came out from the National Restaurant Association. And this is an updated leisure traveler survey as it pertains specifically to the Delta variant. And the numbers don't look great. 69% are taking fewer trips, 65% are taking shorter trips, 42% are canceling, and 55% are postponing. And this is all as it pertains to the spread of the Delta variant. So this also helps us push at the federal and at the state level the need that, while Congress might not want to deal with it right now, the need for continued relief for our industry, because consumer behavior is continuing to make us struggle. It's continuing to make it harder for us to recover. So this is updated information, like I said, that just came out yesterday. To that end, and I'm not sure who's helping me today. I think it's Steph and Ben, or Steph. The National Restaurant Association at this exact moment is doing an updated Corona impact survey. This is the most, you've done a few of these, please continue to do them. It's open until September 15th. The biggest push we get, and all the questions we get from legislators, is what's the impact on Pennsylvania? I don't care about the federal numbers, I care about Pennsylvania. So this survey is just for Pennsylvania business owners to show the impact. So we need you all to engage, because that's how we can draw the picture of the state of our industry. Pennsylvania, you all know it, you all experienced it, was more impacted than almost any other state, maybe outside of California and New York, as it pertains to COVID restrictions. We need to continue to educate and collect the data that we need to show that it's going to take us longer to recover, and we need that support. And without this data, I can't do it. I can't walk around saying 90,000 businesses in the United States have closed, and they're going to say how many are thinking of closing in Pennsylvania, and I can't say heck if I know. So please complete this survey. Please be honest about it. If things are going gangbusters, that's great. We want to know that too. We need this data to be able to push forward with our legislative priorities. Pennsylvania's legislature returns on the 20th of the month. We want to have this data ready to roll to remind them that we're still here, we're still suffering, and we need their help. Next slide. I think I segued perfectly into the state update. So the House and Senate, I'll go to the last bullet first, and then I'll circle back up, and then I'll go back down again. So we're going to pop all over the place today. House and Senate are both returning to session on September 20th of this month. Initially, it was supposed to just be the Senate returning. The House is now planning to return on the 20th as well for session. So we are expecting them back in a week and a half. So if you need me, I'll be sleeping and resting before they all appear again. And generally, the question of what will they address? We're running into the same problem at the state level, which is why that NRA survey, the restaurant survey is so, and that traveler survey is so important. We're running into, within Pennsylvania, a problem between Republicans and Democrats, which have been a problem for a while. But they came together in a year and a half during COVID. They recognized the impact COVID was having on the economy. Whether we agreed with them or not, generally, they moved bills to address those items, sometimes bipartisan, sometimes not, but they recognized the need to help. We're seeing a movement from that. We're kind of seeing a push from the Republican majorities in the House and Senate saying, yes, COVID's still here, but we also need to look for the future and go back to normal as well. And that triggers a lack of enthusiasm to continue to help our industry because they want to move on from it. So they're going to come back and deal with other things that aren't COVID related. Election audit is going to be discussed. It's going to continue to cause a lot of controversy wherever you are in the issue. That's going to be a huge talking point. We have redistricting that needs to happen over the next few months. So all of our maps are going to be redrawn. That's going to be a huge point of discussion. The governor, which we'll talk about in a minute, has a mask mandate for students. The legislature has Republican control, is going to push back on that. They've already filed a lawsuit on that front. So there's a lot of more politically charged items that they're going to be looking to address this fall that will not have the bipartisan support like PRLA has been pushing for, which is why, like I said, it's so important that you complete those surveys. We have that data. You engage when we need you to remind them that they need to remember our industry and continue to stand up for our industry. Some items that are happening right now, and the two are tied together. Today, the Senate Community, actually, as I'm speaking, the Senate Community Economic and Recreational Development Committee is having a hearing on what is called Tourism Improvement District legislation just for Allegheny County. So it is a move to allow an extra assessment to be put on hotels in Allegheny County to drive more funds to tourism promotion, tourism investment in that specific county, not across the state, in that specific county. So that's kind of the opening of a discussion on tourism improvement districts, which leads to the next bullet. For all my hotel members, if you could please click on this link to take a survey for us that will lead to work PRLA has been doing internally. Because as I mentioned, Allegheny County is looking to create a tourism improvement district. We have a lot of other counties, hoteliers, destination marketing organizations, county leaders that are looking to this as an opportunity to maybe drive some more funds for tourism promotion and investment in their regions as well. We have had a truly amazing working group within PRLA consisting of destination marketing organizations and hoteliers who have put in countless hours really diving deep into this issue and determining if this is something that we want to do just enabling legislation for, not mandating it, but authorizing tourism improvement districts to be created across the Commonwealth. How can we do it in a way that protects those funds to make sure they're being used properly and also gives hotels unilateral control over how those funds are used, since they would be the ones paying into this type of district. So we have a summary of kind of the issue. But PRLA, as we always have, will not move forward with legislation unless we get a broad consensus of support across our membership base. So for my hoteliers, please take a moment to review the impact summary. I wrote it up yesterday. It's quite well done, if I may say so myself. And then take that survey just to let us know if we're hitting it on the mark with this, or we should go a little broader, go a little narrower, so we can make sure if we're moving with legislation, it's representative of our entire membership base, as I mentioned. And I think I'm getting to mitigation. Here we are. This slide used to be like 3 slides long. So, I mean, at least we're down to just 1 slide, and it's more me speculating than scaring you with updates or restrictions coming from various entities. As you all know, the governor and Health Secretary Beam issued a statewide school mask mandate, requires all children in all school districts, public, private, and daycares are required to wear a mask in schools. The question that came out of everybody's mouth, and it's something that we questioned before, was the emergency declaration is over. The governor no longer has authority to mandate something like this. How dare he? This was something that we speculated upon when we were talking about the ending of the emergency declaration and the voter referendum. It was more me spitballing, but the thought process we had was we might be stopping the governor from issuing something, but the Secretary of Health does have some authority within that office that made us question, could they still do some type of mandate? And it sounds like and looks like that is exactly what they're tapping into. They're tapping into a law that authorizes the Secretary of Health to basically ensure the safety of children in the populace of Pennsylvania. So that's the law they're tapping into to do this mandate. Is it legal? Is anything legal until a court decides it, is maybe the question. And even then, is it still legal? As of right now, it is being enforced. School districts are being asked to enforce it. There is a lawsuit in place. The Senate Republicans have filed a lawsuit. It's consisting of them and a few parents of children in areas that don't support a mask requirement in schools. That's been filed in Commonwealth Court, and we'll see how it plays out. I could try and speculate and figure out what happens with this one, but it's going to be up to the courts. But as we've seen before, the question is going to be, Commonwealth Court rules that it's legal, where does the state Supreme Court land? And I think we've taken it to the chin more than once, at least as it pertains to mitigation and the state Supreme Court. But this is a gray area. The question is going to be, is it legal, and does the court either uphold it or strike it down before it potentially even ends? Which goes to the how long will it last? There is no end date in place right now. The Secretary of Health has said they're gonna wait for case counts to diminish, and there's no firm number of when that will be. But we are hearing, and numbers are saying, that we should plateau in terms of COVID cases within the next 2.5 weeks-ish and hold steady. And if that's the case, hopefully, as those cases go down, we will see this go away. But that's kind of where we are. Like I said, it is a gray area. The question that second to asking if the unemployment supplement is ever going to come back is the second question you've all been asking John and I, which is, well, if the Secretary of Health did this, can she do something to mitigate our industry? Word from the governor's office continues to be they are not looking to do mitigation. The focus continues to be on vaccines. At my update in 2 weeks, the tourism office and the Department of Community and Economic Development will be attending and talking about the state's efforts to encourage vaccinations. So that's the focus of the administration, remains the focus of the administration. I am not going to say that we're safe for forever. I think the emergency declaration ending is really going to stop further mitigation from happening, but I've been surprised before. So we are keeping an eye on it, but the intention from the administration right now is not to mitigate businesses. They know the economy's been wrecked. The intention is to encourage vaccines, and PRLA is committed to encouraging vaccines. And of course, we'll be communicating with all of you to help get the word on that as well. And then Philadelphia, same thing. No word yet on any further mitigation in Philadelphia. Of course, they only give us about a 12-hour warning if they're going to. But as of right now, there is no word that they're planning further mitigation, but their mask and vaccine mandate remains in place within the city of Philadelphia at this time. There is no end date for that either. It continues to be keeping an eye on case counts, keeping an eye on hospitalizations, As long as they stay low or start diminishing, hopefully we'll see some of these mandates go away. We are not hearing, we're seeing encouragement. Montgomery County, for example, is encouraging people to wear masks indoors, encouraging them now to wear them outdoors, but we are not seeing any mandates right now across the state. But of course, I know for all of you, it's like PTSD and Groundhog's Day, same as it is for me. We are going to continue to monitor it very closely to determine if there's any risks or any threats of mitigation coming our way, and we'll let you know as soon as we hear it. But right now, it seems like we're just holding steady and keeping an eye on case counts. And I think with that, I might have concluded my rambling for a moment.
Well, I will take over for a little bit for you. We do have some great events coming up. Please mark your calendars. Some golf outings coming up at the end of September and in October. The one in September will be benefiting our advocacy efforts. So please take a moment to check out either the golf or the Hops for Hospitality event. You can attend either or both at the, both that day. The Brandywine and Central Chapter golf outings will be benefiting our educational foundation. They are both really fun events. So please take some time to check out those events and see if you can participate. And we do have a round of meetings going on this month. Some are Zoom and some are in person. So check out our website to register. And then next week, Philly will be having a really wonderful wine and cheese pairing that'll be going on. That'll be benefiting our educational foundation for scholarships and for HARP. And then the roundtable in Northeastern Chapter, please take a moment to register for that so that we can get a good head count on that. We are hosting a webinar next week with a group that will be talking about website accessibility and ADA compliance. Please take a moment to register and get on this. It's an important topic and something that you should be well versed in and understanding how your website and the loopholes that could happen for you. Back on the 22nd with Melissa, and we will have someone from the state to talk about the vaccination initiatives. And then we'll be back in October with Melissa with some updates and another webinar from the SBA. There is a virtual seminar going on next week with the NRA. You'll be learning about the latest FDA insights, regulations, inspections, talking with the leaders in food safety. So if you want to join that, go to NRA's website. Again, with the vaccinations, we are doing a lot of promotions throughout the state on where vaccinations can be found. But in Philadelphia, we do have a grant that can help out with testing efforts. If you have to do any type of testing in Philadelphia, please check out our website at the website there and register yourself. We can work to help with reimbursing up to $60 per individual that is tested. And I already did talk about the Hops for Hospitality, but it'll be a lot of fun. So I hope we get a lot of people out there and it does benefit our political action. Level Up, we are still looking for some, looking for you to contribute to the campaign so that we can target the industry, show the industry, and that's an industry of opportunities. And we will be having our annual conference coming up in November, the 8th and 9th. We have some great speakers coming in, some wonderful committee meetings will be going on, and then we'll be having a celebration on the 8th with our awards gala. We have been advertising submittals for the awards, so please take a look at that. If you have anybody that you want to have recognized, please submit that information to us. And as always, please make sure your Surf Safe is up to date. They are going out, they are looking, they want to make sure that you have all your food safety certifications. So we do have classes, regular classes going on. You can check that out on our website under the calendar of events, or just give me a call or send me an email and I can send you a schedule. Virtual experiences, our classes are back in person, but there's always that potential that there's a flood or a hurricane comes up the coast and they have to go virtual. So if you have any tours or any offerings, and actually field trips, they are looking for field trips because these students haven't been out for a year. So if you have a field trip or an experience that you think would be interesting to a local school in your area, please reach out to me. And with that, I think we may have a few questions, but not a ton.
I think I just have one, and I've been spending no less than the last minute, Lori, trying to figure out the best answer to your question. The question was, at what percentage, at what percentage do you put the chances of RRF replenishment? I'm waffling and don't take this as like it's not going to happen. I'm waffling between 40 and 50%. 50% is at the end, if we put enough pressure on our entire congressional delegation, that in the back of their minds, they're thinking, man, if we could help this industry, second largest industry in Pennsylvania, you know, this will check a box for us. I think our best chance, and this is me speculating because I don't want to get in the minds of Congress, is the moderate Democrats in the US Senate, and what they are going to require to put up a vote for a $2 to $3 trillion infrastructure bill. So I think our best chance, honestly, is the Joe Manchin's, Kirsten Sinemas of the world, basically saying, if you want my vote to get to 51, I need this. So I think it's going to be a bit of horse trading. But I also think that when that moment comes, if there's enough of those, you know, who are going to put up the vote anyway, that says, actually, that would help me a little bit too, it could get us across the finish line. So I do think if it's going to happen, it's going to be somebody making that their number one priority to trade for it. But like I said, I think we need to lay the groundwork with everybody. That's where I see it right now. Now, could we have another great bill, you know, in October that we could load it up into if it doesn't happen in the infrastructure bill? Yes. But I think short term, that's probably our best opportunity. And John's nodding his head, so I think that's right.
Well, I agree 100% with your analysis, Melissa. Uncharacteristically, though, you're a little bit more optimistic than I am, because we usually go the other way on it. I would have put it at about 25%, but I also would have put the original RRF at less than 25%. So that, take that into account. And Senator Sinema, to your comment, has already said the only way she'll vote for the infrastructure package is if the RRF refunding is in there. So you're right, that's our best hope. And if you don't like the infrastructure package, that is what it is. That's, if we're just looking at RRF, that's probably the best hope.
I think if guidance on outdoor tenting has changed since Pennsylvania ended the emergency order. So the only place where there is guidance on tenting is Philadelphia, and that pertains to the indoor-outdoor requirement of masking or vaccines. There is no guidance or restrictions on tenting in the rest of Pennsylvania. So we don't have to play the game of how many walls do you have to have open. We don't have to play that game. So that's only in the city of Philadelphia that we're running into that. There is no restrictions on capacity tenting, anything else, anywhere else in the state of Pennsylvania, except in Philadelphia, where the masking requirement is required indoors. And therefore you have an indoor tent, you have to have a masking requirement in place. And I did, as I mentioned, the two moderate senators, like I said, off the top of my head are Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. So those are the two we think are going to be the most helpful. And as John said, Senator Sinema seems to be making this a legislative priority. So we will continue to keep the pressure on there. And we have another call this afternoon with our national folks, and hopefully we get a better feel for steps forward from there. But that's I think all I got for the day.
Well, thank you, Melissa and John. We appreciate you all getting on the webinar with us today. And as always, we will send this out. Sue just put something about Montgomery County starting to require masks outdoor.
It's my understanding is it's, again, not mandated, it's urging. It's a strong suggestion for masks for outdoors. And the only reason I know that is because my family's in Montgomery County and I was there this weekend when they did it. But we can look into that, Sue. But my understanding was that it was a strong urging, not a mandate.
So Sue, we'll get back to you about that.
I'm looking it up real quick. Yeah, Montgomery County recommends masking outdoors. So it is still a recommendation. You should do it. It's the right thing to do. But it's a recommendation. Because I felt bad. I was walking in Valley Forge and I didn't have a mask and I felt guilty, but I stayed away from people.
I know it's hard to determine when to wear a mask or not wear a mask anymore at this point. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll get this out to everybody as a recording and have it up on our website. And as always, just reach out to us in the office or through email and we'll help you out as best we can. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone. See you in 2
Thanks,
weeks.
Hope. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Steph, man. Oh.
Debbie Downer, we were done.